Welcome to our short tutorial for the embroidery rope or stem stitch. Take the fabric that you will be embroidering and mark out the shape that you would like to stitch with your chalk or fabric marker. For this demonstration, I'll be stitching the stem of a flower and a small leaf. I've chosen to use a green matte crochet yarn, about 1 to 2 millimeters thick. And as you can see here, if I unravel the yarn, it's made up of 4 strands. You can choose to use these strands individually or double together as 2, or you can use the whole thread with the full 4 strands. I'm going to use it with the full 4 strands because it helps give the rope more of a rope-like effect, as you can see the twining of the thread already. I'll be using a number 20 chenille needle with the sharp end. First, we'll thread our needle. Because this type of crochet yarn frays very easily and it's a little bit too thick to do the doubled over method, I wet the end of the yarn and pinch it between my fingers, and then I push the eye of the needle towards the thread until it goes through the eye of the needle, and then pull the yarn through as normal. I make a small knot in the end of our yarn. Here I'm doubling it again just to make sure that the knot doesn't unravel. And for this stitch I want to use a single strand, so I let the end with the knot hang longer than the end without. And now we can begin. The direction of the stitches that we're going to be making lay diagonally over the line or shape that you'll be stitching. This gives the effect of an intertwined rope. Therefore, we'll start our first stitch at the start of our drawn line or design and slightly off to one side. For example, if you would like your rope to twine over to the right, then you start slightly over to the left of your drawn line. And vice versa, if you want to have it twining to the left, then you start slightly to the right of your line. My rope stitch is going to slant to the right, so I'm going to come through from behind the fabric to the front with my needle slightly to the left of my drawn line. Here you decide what length you would like your stitch to be. Now my stitches are going to be about 1/2 centimetre long. So I'll thread my needle through the back of the fabric 1/2 centimetre along my line and slightly to the right. For the next stitch, I come through the front of my fabric with my needle a small amount above and slightly to the right of the first entry point of my stitch. And then when we go back into the fabric, we go back in the same amount above and the same amount to the right of the exit point for the first stitch. I repeat this until I reach the end of my line, doing my best to keep the length of each stitch consistent, as this is key to making the stitch look like a rope. As you can see here, some of my stitch lengths became inconsistent because I started to get cramp in my hand from holding the embroidery hoop so tight. In this case, you can unthread your needle and unpick the stitches until you reach a point where you are happy with the design and the stitching that you were doing, and then redo them. The thing is with embroidery is that there are no mistakes. Things can always be undone, redone, or left as they are to give your work a bit more character. When you reach the end of your line or design, you can choose to make a small knot at the back of the fabric to secure the thread in place, or you can weave the thread through the back of the stitches that you just made. Next, I'll show you what the stitch looks like to fill a space here in my leaf. The effect is less obvious, however you can choose to alternate 2 shades of the same colour thread to accentuate the rope effect. Technically, when you fill this space with this kind of stitch, it's actually called a satin stitch. However, for this variation we use the same technique as the rope or stem stitch, so it made sense to group them together. When you finish filling your space with the rope stitch, we turn our work over and we're going to secure our yarn in place so that our work doesn't come undone. We can make a small knot, or you can weave through the thread as I'm doing here through the back of the stitches that you just made. We have finished our rope and stem stitch on both a defined line and filled the space. Give it a try and share with us how it turns out.